Why was everyone ignoring her at the briefing table? The room hummed with low voices, papers shuffling, chairs sliding. Men leaned forward, elbows planted, eyes sharp as they traced maps lit in pale blue light. Commanders spoke, analysts pointed, pilots nodded. And in the corner, barely noticed, she sat. Her boots were dusted from the road. Her hair pulled back tight, but not tight enough to hide the way her jaw clenched whenever someone cut across her words. They didn't mean to erase her, not really, they just didn't see her. She was the smallest presence in a room filled with giants, broad shoulders, loud voices, reputations built from decades of steel and fire. Men who'd survived more than one battlefield. Men who wore scars like medals. And then there was her. The lieutenant who nobody really knew. The sniper who rarely spoke. The woman who had kept her record clean, quiet, invisible. Invisible except for tonight. Because tonight the mission had shifted. Someone had leaked information. Someone had burned their window of approach. What was supposed to be a surgical in and out had turned into something far heavier, far messier. And she knew, deep down, that the maps, the strategies, the drawn arrows weren't the whole truth. There was something else, something she hadn't told them. Not yet. The projector flicked from map to live drone footage, a desert plain, pale under moonlight. A compound at the center, fences drawn tight like ribs around a beating heart. The colonel's voice was steady. Primary objective, extract asset alive. Secondary, minimize casualties. Tertiary, leave no footprint. Every man in the room nodded like the rhythm of war drums. She sat straighter. Her fingers tapped the pen against her notebook once, twice, then stilled. Alive. That word wasn't just an order to her, it was personal. But nobody asked why her eyes stayed fixed on the drone feed. Nobody asked why her breath caught when the compound gates flickered into view. Because nobody thought she mattered enough to ask. The colonel dismissed the room, chairs scraped, boots thudded, cigarettes were lit before men even hit the corridor. She stayed behind, gathering her papers slowly. Only one person lingered, Morales. He was older, weathered, his face carved by too many deserts, too many funerals. He tilted his head toward her. "You're quiet tonight," he said. She glanced up, managed a thin smile. "I usually am." His eyes held hers a moment longer than most, as if he saw something the others didn't, but he didn't press. He just nodded once and left. She waited until the door clicked shut. The silence pressed in. Her hand slipped into her pocket, closing around the folded photograph she carried everywhere. A boy's face, caught mid-laugh, squinting against the sun. Her brother. Missing for 3 years, presumed dead. But she had reasons to believe otherwise. And those reasons were standing inside that compound. She slid the photo back into her pocket, straightened her shoulders, and walked out. The helicopter rotors screamed against the night sky. Dust whirled. She ducked into the bird, heart hammering as the crew sealed the doors. Inside, red lights pulsed against helmets and rifles. Men bantered in low tones, masking nerves with jokes. She said nothing. She stared at her rifle, the long black barrel resting across her knees. Worn, scarred, but faithful. She had named it once years ago, but kept that name tucked inside her own silence. "First op with the big boys, huh?" One of them teased. His voice was half friendly, half condescending. She didn't bite, didn't rise. Another leaned in. "Don't worry, sweetheart, just stay behind me, you'll be fine." Their laughter rattled inside the fuselage. She stayed stone still, but her hands tightened on the rifle. Because they didn't know. They didn't know about the night in the mountains when she had lain still for 36 hours, waiting for a single target to step into her scope. They didn't know about the time she had dragged 2 wounded men through mud, bleeding herself, but refusing to stop. They didn't know about the years of carrying silence heavier than any pack. They didn't know that she had come here not just for the mission. She had come for him. The boy in the photograph. Her brother. The pilot's voice cracked over the headset, 30 seconds out. The men tensed, rifles lifted, adrenaline washed through the cabin like static. Her pulse quickened, but beneath it was something else, a question that gnawed at her. What if she found him? What if she did? And what if finding him changed everything? The helicopter dipped, slammed into hover. Go, go, go. Boots hit dirt. Shouts cut through rotor thunder. They spread, moved, shadows sliding across sand and wire. She hit the ground last. Dust stung her eyes. The compound loomed higher, darker, heavier than the map had ever shown. And for a flicker of a moment, she hesitated. Not from fear. From the weight of knowing, once she stepped forward, nothing would ever be the same. The breach came sudden, explosions cracked fences, lights strobed, men surged, orders barked through comms. She followed in, rifle up, breath steady. Corners cleared, halls swept, doors broken. Inside, the compound reeked of oil and rust, sweat and gunpowder. A siren wailed somewhere deep. She moved with precision, every step deliberate, every angle checked. But her eyes weren't on the enemy. They were searching for a face she hadn't seen in years. One of the men cursed over comms. Rooms empty. Another, no sign of him. The colonel's voice snapped back, keep moving. She did. But with every door that opened to nothing, her chest tightened. Until a shout, a call from Morales. I've got something. They converged. She was last to step in, rifle raised. And there against the wall, shackled, bruised, barely conscious, was a man, thin, beard overgrown, eyes sunken. Her heart stopped. It wasn't him. Not her brother. Another captive, another story. The man's lips trembled. He whispered something she couldn't catch. Morales leaned in, listened. His face tightened. He glanced at her, then back at the team. We're compromised. He says there's more here. A reason they're keeping prisoners. A reason they're moving them. The colonel's voice cut sharp. We don't have time. Extract him and exfil. But her chest burned. More here, prisoners, reasons. Could it mean? She stepped forward, her voice finally breaking the silence. We can't leave yet. Every head turned. For the first time that night, they all looked at her. And none of them knew that the mission's fate had just shifted, because of a step she had taken into the light. Why did they listen to her now? For hours she had been invisible, a shadow among louder men. But when her voice finally cut the silence, the weight of it made them pause. Morales frowned. What do you mean we can't leave yet? The colonel's voice cracked sharp over comms. Lieutenant, speak clear. Her chest felt tight, words reluctant, like prying open a wound. He said there are more prisoners, that they're moving them. If we extract only him, we leave the rest behind. Silence pressed in. One of the younger soldiers cursed under his breath. This wasn't in the brief. We don't have time for this. Another shook his head. Orders are orders. We're in and out. You want to go hunting for ghosts, be my guest, but don't drag us down with you. Their words stabbed, but she stood her ground. She felt every eye, every judgment, every doubt. And still. Her hand brushed the pocket where the photo rested. Her brother's face, his laugh frozen in sunlight. She forced her voice steady. If there are more, if they're still alive, we owe them more than silence. The colonel snapped back. This op isn't a rescue mission. Confirm extraction and move. The tension cracked like glass. The men exchanged looks. Sweat shone on foreheads, breaths harsh inside helmets. They had a choice. Obey the voice far away in safety, or listen to the quiet conviction standing in front of them. Morales broke it. His voice was low, steady. We've all left men behind before. Some of us still see their faces at night. If there's even a chance she's right. He looked around the room, then at her. I say we look. The colonel's silence stretched. Finally, you've got 10 minutes. After that, I pull you out with or without. The channel cut. Her pulse hammered. 10 minutes. 10 minutes to change everything. Yeah. They moved deeper into the compound, shadows pressed close. The captive, weak but conscious, leaned on Morales. His words came in fragments, broken by pain. Lower levels cages, they moved them at night. The hallways narrowed. The air grew damp, metallic, pipes hissed overhead. The further they went, the heavier the silence felt, as if the walls themselves carried secrets. Her boots were silent on the concrete. Her eyes scanned every shadow, every flicker of movement. But beneath the training, beneath the rifle, beneath the armor, her mind burned with one question. Was he here? Could he be here? And if he was, what then? Yeah. The stairwell was dark, littered with broken crates. The smell hit them first, rot, sweat, iron. A soldier gagged softly, muttering a curse. They descended, rifles raised. At the bottom, a metal door, heavy, rusted. Morales gestured. She nodded, stepping forward, placing her hand against the cold steel. For a moment, she just listened. There. Faint. Breathing. She drew back, motioned. The charges went quiet and clean. The door shuddered open. What they saw stole the air from the room. Rows of cages, thin hands gripping bars, eyes hollow, staring. Men, women, too weak to cry out, too scared to believe what they saw. Her chest crushed inward. The younger soldier whispered, voice breaking, "God, what is this place?" They rushed in, cutters biting chains, hands pulling captives free. Whispers rose, words in languages she didn't know, voices trembling between hope and terror. One of the prisoners, older, gaunt, clutched her wrist when she leaned close. His eyes were wild. They move them, every week. Not all survive, you must hurry. Her throat closed. Everywhere she looked, broken bodies, stolen faces, stories untold. She swallowed hard, pushing the weight down, forcing herself to move. 10 minutes. They didn't have long. Yeah. The radio crackled, the colonel's voice sharp, status. Morales hesitated. His eyes flicked to her. She gave the faintest nod. He answered, voice calm. Extraction proceeding, package secure, moving now. A lie. But necessary. She moved from cage to cage, her eyes scanning every face, every gaunt cheekbone, every hollow stare. And then she froze. One prisoner, a young man, hair dark, eyes too familiar. Her breath hitched. For a heartbeat, she thought it was him. Her brother. But when he looked up, his gaze empty, his voice hoarse with another language she knew. Not him. Her knees almost buckled. Relief and despair crashed together, tearing at her chest. He wasn't here, not yet. But she couldn't let the others see the storm inside her. She forced herself upright, forced her voice steady. Move them, now. Yeah. They formed a line, carrying, dragging, supporting the prisoners. Up the stairs, through the halls, past the wreckage of their breach. Every step risked discovery, every breath threatened to give them away. Her ears strained for footsteps, for shouts, for the crack of rifles. But the silence pressed heavy. Too heavy. Until a sound. Distant. Boots. Voices. The enemy was coming. Her chest clenched. They wouldn't make it in time, too many prisoners, too weak to run, too slow to climb. And then she knew what had to happen. She stepped forward, planting herself at the rear, rifle lifting. I'll hold them. Morales turned, face hard. No, you move with them. Her jaw tightened. They won't get out if someone doesn't stay. The others argued, voices overlapped, tension sparking. But she didn't wait for agreement. She dropped into position, rifle braced, eyes fixed on the darkness ahead. Her hands were steady, her heart was. Because part of her wasn't staying just for the mission. Part of her was staying for him. For the brother she still believed, was somewhere beyond that darkness. And if she had to fight every shadow to get to him, she would. Yeah. The first figures appeared, rifles raised, shouts tearing the air. She exhaled slowly. The scope found its mark. The silence shattered. Yeah. For every shot she took, another memory surged, a childhood laugh, a broken goodbye, a letter unanswered. Her world narrowed to the trigger, the breath, the recoil. Voices screamed behind her, "Move, move!" Prisoners pushed forward, carried by desperate soldiers. The enemy pressed harder, too many, too fast. Morales was last to pass, glancing back, eyes catching hers. Something unspoken passed between them, respect, regret, trust. She nodded once. He disappeared into the shadows with the others. And she was alone. Her rifle cracked over and over until the barrel smoked. But even she knew she couldn't hold them forever. And yet she didn't flinch. Because if her step forward could buy them seconds, if her silence could buy them breath, then maybe, just maybe, it would change everything. Yeah. The radio hissed in her ear. The colonel's voice sharp with anger. "Lieutenant, what the hell are you doing? Get out of there." She ignored it. Instead, she whispered, words only she could hear. "I'm not leaving anyone behind. Not again." How long could one person stand against many? She had asked herself that question before. During training, when sweat blurred her vision. During deployments, when the night seemed endless. During the long silences of waiting, when the only sound was her own heartbeat. But never like this. Never with lives behind her, depending on how long she could hold. The corridor shook with boots pounding closer. Shadows flickered against walls. Shouts barked in a language she half understood. She braced the rifle, cheek pressed to stock, exhaled slow. The first target emerged. She fired, he dropped. Another. For everyone that fell, two more surged. Her magazine emptied. She dropped it, fingers slick with sweat, slamming in another. Her movements automatic, years of drills flowing through muscle and bone. And yet her chest ached. Because with every shot she knew, this wasn't sustainable. The men behind her, dragging prisoners, they needed more time. She couldn't give enough. Her lips whispered without meaning to, "Run, please, just run." Yeah. Morale's voice crackled faintly over comms. "We're clear of the building. 5 minutes to extraction. Hold just a little longer." A bitter laugh almost rose in her throat. Just a little longer. As if those words had any weight. Her rifle spat fire. Brass shells clattered. The air filled with the tang of gunpowder, thick, choking. The enemy pressed harder. Bullets sparked against concrete, chipped walls. One tore past her cheek, hot enough to sting. Her hand stayed steady. Her heart was. Because in the flashes of faces rushing toward her, she thought she saw him. Her brother. Dark hair, same tilt of jaw, same narrow eyes. For a heartbeat she froze, the scope wavered. And then the illusion was gone. Just another enemy soldier falling into the dust. Her stomach twisted. Was exhaustion playing tricks on her? Or was her hope so sharp it cut reality apart? Yeah. She ducked behind cover, breath ragged, magazine low, grenade gone, radio hissing with static. Her hand slipped into her pocket, the photo pressed against her palm like a wound. She looked at it just for a second, the boy's grin sunlit bright. She whispered to it, "Where are you?" Her throat burned. She shoved it back, slammed the rifle up again. She couldn't let the photo be the last thing she ever touched. Yeah. The enemy surged again, closer now. She switched to pistol, firing sharp, controlled. Click, empty. Her chest lurched. She dropped it, grabbed the rifle again, checked the chamber. 2 rounds left. 2. Her ears rang, her vision tunneled. She thought of the words Morales had said earlier. "We've all left men behind before. Some of us still see their faces at night." She wasn't going to leave anyone. Not the prisoners, not her brother, not anyone. If this was her stand, it had to mean something. She steadied, fired, one target down, one round left. And then the hall went silent. Too silent. Yeah. She frowned, pressing back against the wall. The air felt wrong, heavy. Then she heard it. Metal dragging, heavy boots, a different rhythm. Not soldiers. Something else. She peeked around the corner. And froze. A larger figure stepped into view. Armored heavier, weapon longer, stride deliberate. A commander, perhaps, or something worse. He raised his weapon. She ducked back, heart slamming. One round left. One chance. Her hands shook for the first time all night. She forced them still. Breathe, focus, steady. She remembered her brother's voice, years ago, on a shooting range they'd built together out of scrap. His laugh when she missed, his grin when she finally hit. Doesn't matter how many shots you miss. It matters when the one that counts lands. Her throat tightened. One round, one chance. She rose. The scope aligned, the breath slowed. Her finger tightened. Bang! The figure crumpled, silence slammed down. Her chest heaved, her hands lowered. And for the first time all night, she let herself believe. Maybe she could do this. Maybe she could hold. Yeah. The radio cracked again, Morale's voice urgent. We're at the extraction point. Where the hell are you? Her lips parted, but no sound came. Because before she could answer, she heard it. Another voice. Not in the radio, not in the hall. Behind her. Weak, raspy. Familiar. Sisu. Her blood ran cold. She turned slowly. At the far end of the hall, another figure, thin, shackled, bruised. Her breath caught. Dark hair, same tilt of jaw. Her brother. Alive. Yeah. Her knees almost gave out. The rifle slipped in her grip. Her chest broke open with something between a sob and a laugh. But then reality snapped back. If he was here, then everything changed. The mission, the choices, the lies she had told. Everything. She staggered toward him, but the sound of boots rose again. Louder, closer. The enemy hadn't stopped. Her brother's eyes widened with terror. He shook his head. No, don't run. His words broke as figures surged behind him, guards dragging him back, shouts tearing the air. And just like that, he was gone. Dragged into darkness. Her chest hollowed, her throat closed. She stumbled, breath ripping out of her. He was alive. Alive. And they had taken him. Again. The radio screamed, "Lieutenant, extraction now, we're leaving." She pressed her back to the wall, tears stinging, vision blurred. For years she had carried the silence of his absence. Now the silence of his capture threatened to crush her. Her lips trembled. But then resolve hardened. No. She wasn't done. Not tonight. Her brother was alive. And if it meant tearing apart the mission, defying orders, breaking every chain of command, she would find him. Her steps were heavy but certain as she pushed forward, deeper into the compound, away from the extraction, away from safety. The mission had shifted. Her mission. Her voice whispered, ragged, breaking. I'm coming for you. How far could she walk away from orders before there was no return? Her boots pounded against concrete, deeper into the compound, away from the extraction point. The radio hissed in her ear, voices calling her name, demanding response. She ripped the earpiece free. The silence that followed was almost worse. Because now she was alone. The shadows pressed close. The air grew thicker, heavier, metallic with the taste of blood and rust. Somewhere behind, gunfire echoed faintly, the team covering the prisoners. Ahead, nothing but darkness. Her chest heaved, but her steps never faltered. He was alive. Her brother, dragged into the dark, swallowed again by the same faceless enemy that had stolen him years ago. She had thought grief was permanent, that absence was a wound that never healed, that hope was a cruel trick. But now, hope was fire, and fire demanded fuel. Yeah. Behind her, Morale's voice crackled across his comms. He was at the extraction zone, the helicopters waiting, prisoners loaded. The colonel's voice tore through. "Get her out, now, that's an order." Morale's jaw clenched. His men looked at him, uncertain, waiting. "She's gone deeper," one whispered. "She's lost," another muttered. But Morales just stared back toward the compound, his weathered face tight. He had seen soldiers break before, seen them chase ghosts, seen them die for them. But this was different. Because he had seen her eyes when she spoke, the weight in her silence, the kind of fire you don't fake. He whispered to himself, so low no one else heard, "Who the hell did you see in there?" Yeah. Inside, she moved like a shadow, rifle low, body tight to walls, breath controlled. The training never left, but something else now drove her, something sharper than discipline, heavier than orders. The corridors twisted, rooms opened into silence, empty bunks, half-eaten meals, papers scattered, signs of movement, of life just left behind. And then, a sound, a cry. She froze, heart hammering. It was faint, muffled, but real. She followed it step by step down another stairwell. The air grew damp, colder. Water dripped from pipes. The cry grew louder until it split into words. Not English, not familiar, but desperate. She pushed forward, every nerve alive. And there, behind another rusted door, voices, chains rattling. She pressed her ear to the steel. Her breath caught. One word cut through clear, a name. Her name. Her brother's voice. Yeah. She staggered back, throat tightening, vision blurring with sudden tears. Her hands trembled against the rifle. It was real. He was here. Alive. Her mind screamed to break the door, to rush in, to tear it down with bare hands. But footsteps echoed above, heavy, fast. Reinforcements. Her pulse spiked. She had seconds. Yeah. Back at the extraction point, Morales paced. The colonel's voice boomed through comms. "We are pulling out, that's final. You bring her or she stays. Do you copy?" Morales' men looked at him, waiting. One said what they were all thinking. "She's going to die in there." Morales' jaw flexed, his chest tightened. He had buried too many soldiers already. But the image of her standing in that room, defying every voice, every order, it burned in him. And something else. The way she had whispered earlier, like a confession more than a tactic. If there are more, if they're still alive, we owe them more than silence. Morales turned. "Mount up, keep the prisoners safe." They stared. "And you?" He checked his rifle, face hard. "I'm not letting her fight alone." Yeah. Inside, she braced at the door, her rifle low, her heart pounding. The footsteps closed in. She couldn't break the door now, not without being overrun. She forced herself back into the shadows, eyes narrowing, waiting. The first soldier rounded the corner. She took him down clean. Another. The hall erupted with chaos. Gunfire split the air, walls sparking, smoke choking the corridor. Her shoulder burned as a round grazed past, tearing fabric hot against skin. She gritted her teeth, held steady, fired back. Every second she fought bought another heartbeat. Every heartbeat kept him alive. Her brother. Yeah. And then, another voice cut through the chaos. Not hers, not the enemy. "Lieutenant." Her head snapped up. "Morales." He surged into view, rifle blazing, his men covering the rear. His face was tight, jaw locked, but his eyes met hers with something fierce. "You're insane," he shouted over the gunfire. "You know that." She almost laughed, raw, bitter, broken. "Maybe." He shoved past, bracing beside her. "But you're not doing this alone." Yeah. Together they fought, covering, firing, moving. Every bullet, every breath, every curse pulled them deeper into the storm. The enemy pressed harder, but two against many became a rhythm. A dance carved from survival, from trust, from something deeper than orders. And for the first time that night, she didn't feel invisible. For the first time, someone saw her, not as a shadow, not as silence, but as the soldier she was. Yeah. The last of the soldiers dropped. Smoke hung heavy, acrid. Her lungs burned. Morales wiped sweat and blood from his face, muttering, "We're out of time." She turned to the door, her palms pressed against it, trembling, desperate. Her voice cracked, "He's in here." Morales froze. "Who?" Her throat worked, her eyes filled. She hadn't told anyone, not yet. She whispered, "My brother." The silence was heavy. Morales' gaze softened, understanding dawning. That was why she had spoken at the briefing, why she had stayed, why she had fought harder than anyone else. Not just for duty. For blood. For love. Morales nodded once. No judgment, no disbelief, just a soldier's quiet respect. "Then let's get him out." Yeah. The charges blew. The door shuddered, split, collapsed inward. And there, chains, shackles, faces starring. And among them him. Her brother. Weak, pale, broken. But alive. Her knees almost buckled. She staggered forward, tears burning hot. His eyes lifted, glassy but clear. And when they found hers, he smiled. A broken, trembling smile. Her heart shattered and healed in the same breath. She dropped to her knees, hands cupping his face, her rifle forgotten on the floor. Her voice broke in pieces. "I've got you, I've got you. I'm not leaving you again." His lips moved, hoarse. "Knew you'd come." Yeah. But even as her arms wrapped around him, even as she felt his frail body trembling against hers, the radio on Morales' chest screamed. "Enemy armor inbound. 2 minutes. Get out or be buried." Her eyes closed, tears falling. Because nothing was ever that simple. Nothing ever gave without taking. She had him. But now could she keep him? Why did silence feel heavier than the firefight that had nearly taken their lives? The compound lay still now. Smoke drifted. Dust clung to their lips. And yet every eye in the squad avoided hers. Elena sat with her back against a broken wall, helmet at her side, rifle across her lap. She could feel it, the weight of what she had done. The shot, the decision, the silence afterward. She hadn't asked for leadership, but when everything collapsed, when giants of rank and reputation fell, she stepped forward. One call, one voice, and the mission bent towards survival. But now, doubt ate at her like shrapnel still buried in muscle. She replayed it again and again, her sight picture through the scope, the trigger squeeze, the enemy officer dropping before his order reached the radio. A single breath had saved lives. A single act had changed everything. Yet in the quiet after, she caught their faces, relief tangled with something sharper, suspicion, as if she had taken too much initiative, carried a weight not meant for her. The youngest of the squad, Ortiz, broke the silence first. "You didn't even hesitate." His tone wasn't admiration, it was unease. She wanted to answer, wanted to explain that hesitation would have buried them all beneath rubble, but the words stuck. What good were explanations? What good was justification? In this world, actions spoke and echoes lingered. The medic, Dawson, tried to mend the tension. She did what had to be done. His voice was thin, strained. He pressed gauze into a wound that wouldn't stop bleeding, his hands trembling. Elena lowered her gaze, feeling both shielded and exposed. Had she crossed a line? Or had she simply revealed what she was capable of, something they weren't ready to see. The radio crackled, static, then a broken voice. Command searching. They weren't alone out here. The mission still clawed forward, and now, with fewer voices to guide it, hers carried weight she never wanted. She forced herself to speak, quiet, controlled. "We move at first light." The squad looked at her, not with the obedience given to a commander, but with the reluctant acknowledgement of someone they couldn't ignore anymore. That night sleep didn't come. She leaned against her pack, staring at the faint stars through smoke. Every memory sharpened, the years of being overlooked in training, the voices that told her she was careful but not decisive, skilled but not commanding. Always the shadow, never the center. And yet in that compound she had stepped forward, not because she wanted it, because silence demanded it. But something else gnawed at her, deeper than doubt, a truth she hadn't shared. Her brother's name, still listed as missing from an op that mirrored this one too closely. Same terrain, same chaos, same silence afterward. She hadn't told them, she couldn't, that her decision to step forward wasn't just survival, it was something else. A promise whispered into the dark: if I can't save him, I'll save whoever I can. When dawn bled across the horizon, she stood. Her body ached, her eyes burned, but her step forward was steady. The squad followed, quiet shadows in her wake. Hours into the march, Dawson spoke, his voice low, almost hesitant. "You didn't hesitate because you've been here before, haven't you?" Alina froze mid-step. The others turned, curious, suspicious. She didn't answer. Not yet. The dust swirled in the rising heat, and for a moment it felt like her brother's ghost walked beside her. The silence stretched until it threatened to snap. Then she whispered, almost too soft to hear, "I've lost more than I can count." And she kept walking. Her words sank into them like stones into water, ripples spreading. They didn't press further, not yet, but in their eyes something shifted, not full trust, not yet, but something closer to understanding. Later, when the sun sank low and shadows stretched long, they came across another village. Empty, abandoned, doors swaying on hinges. A dog barked once, then vanished into the ruins. Alina raised her fist. "Halt!" The squad obeyed. They scanned, watched, waited. And then she saw it, etched on the wall of a crumbling house. A symbol, the same symbol her brother had once described in a letter, the mark of the group that had taken him. Her breath caught, the world narrowed. She said nothing, not yet, but her fingers traced the mark, trembling before pulling back as if burned. She wasn't just walking into another mission. She was walking into the shadows of her own ghosts. And somewhere ahead, she would have to decide whether to reveal the truth and risk everything, or carry it alone until it broke her. The squad watched her from a distance, confused, waiting. She wiped the dust from her hands, steadied her breath, and forced her voice into calm. "We keep moving." But inside, her pulse pounded with a new question. What if this mission's fate wasn't just about survival, but about finding him? And what if stepping forward meant carrying them all into her war? What if the silence of a march was more dangerous than gunfire? Each step crunched against gravel, each breath measured, as if the earth itself was listening. Alina walked at point, her shoulders squared, eyes locked forward. But inside she was unraveling. That mark on the wall, the ghost of her brother stitched into its lines. She hadn't told them, not yet. The squad carried their own scars, losses, doubts, secrets, and hers was a wound still bleeding. To share it would mean admitting she wasn't here just for the mission, that her step forward carried a shadow agenda. Ortiz broke the monotony first. "Feels like they're watching us." His voice was thin, nervous. "They are," Alina said flatly, scanning rooftops. "They always are." He didn't reply, but the silence afterward pressed harder. The medic, Dawson, trudged closer, his lips cracked from dehydration, his bandaged hands shaking with each swing of his rifle. "She's right," he muttered. "You don't survive this long without eyes on you. Question is, When do they make their move? Alina didn't answer. She already knew. It wouldn't be now under the open sky. It would be when shadows deepened, when choices narrowed. Her mind drifted back to training days, when she was just another name on a roster, a shadow behind louder voices. Instructors praised her marksmanship, her patience, her ability to disappear into terrain, but they never saw her as decisive, never as someone who could bend the mission's fate. That role was given to men with booming voices and broad shoulders, giants. And now those giants were gone. She tightened her grip on the rifle. She couldn't let them see the tremor in her hands. Hours later, as twilight smeared across the horizon, the squad found cover in the ruins of an old farmhouse. The walls leaned, broken but standing. A roof half collapsed, enough shelter to hide in shadows. Alina gave orders with calm precision. Ortiz, South Watch; Dawson, treat what you can, the rest eat, quietly. Her voice carried no rank insignia, no authority but necessity. Still, they obeyed. She moved to the doorway, scanning fields silvered by moonlight. Every stalk of grass looked like a rifle barrel, every rustle a step. Behind her, the squad murmured in low tones, little fragments of themselves spilling into the night. Ortiz talked about a girl back home who had promised to wait, but in his voice, Alina heard doubt, like he didn't believe promises survived distance and silence. Dawson spoke softly about a farm he once worked, about hands that used to mend fences instead of stitching wounds. His tone cracked when he mentioned his daughter. He had kept a photo in his pocket, but the photo was gone, burned in the fire of a previous ambush. All he had left was memory. These fragments were small, almost fragile, yet they anchored them all to something human. Alina didn't speak, she never shared, but her silence wasn't absence, it was a shield. If she let one truth slip, the rest would come pouring out. The brother, the mission beneath the mission, the vow that drove her step. When the night deepened, Dawson shuffled closer, sitting just inside the doorframe. He didn't look at her, just at the horizon. "You carry something," he said quietly, "something heavier than the rest of us." Alina didn't turn. "We all carry weight." "Yeah," Dawson said, voice brittle, "but not all of us walk like it's pulling us forward instead of down." His words lingered. She wanted to deflect, to push them away. But in his tone there wasn't accusation, just weary observation. For a moment she almost told him, almost confessed the mark, the brother, the real reason she couldn't hesitate. But then Ortiz stirred in his sleep, mumbling something unintelligible, and the moment broke. "Get some rest," she said, her voice firm again. Dawson didn't argue. He just nodded, as if he understood more than she wanted him to. Hours later, the attack came. It started with silence, too much silence. Birds stopped, wind stilled, the world held its breath. Then shadows surged from the fields, figures moving low, fast, rifles glinting in moonlight. Alina didn't shout, she didn't panic. Her rifle snapped to her shoulder, sight aligning as if it had always been waiting. One shot cracked, then another. Each target dropped like punctuation in a grim sentence. The squad scrambled, returning fire. Shouts, dust, muzzle flashes painting the dark. Ortiz cursed, firing wildly. Dawson dragged a wounded man behind cover, his hands moving faster than his fear. Alina stayed steady. Breath, trigger, every shot placed, every motion deliberate. But then she saw him. Among the attackers, a face too familiar, not her brother, but the same insignia, the same mark sewn onto the vest. Her chest tightened, the world tunneled. She almost broke, almost screamed his name into the night. Instead, she squeezed the trigger. The man fell. The insignia burned into her memory like fire on skin. When the dust cleared, silence returned, this time heavier, dead heavier. Bodies littered the fields. The squad breathed hard, shaken but alive. Ortiz muttered, "We shouldn't be alive." Alina lowered her rifle slowly. She wanted to collapse, to let the weight crush her, but instead she stood straighter. Her voice cut through the thick air. "We move before first light, more will come." They obeyed, because what else could they do? Later, when she was alone, she pulled the body closer. Fingers shaking, she tore the insignia free. The same mark as on the wall, proof, a thread leading somewhere. Her brother was close, closer than ever. But as she held the insignia, she knew the truth. Following it might save him, or it might doom them all. She folded the cloth, slipped it into her pocket, and whispered a promise no one else could hear. "I'll find you, even if it costs me everything." Then she stood, shoulders squared once more, stepping forward into shadows that felt more personal with every mile. And behind her, the squad followed, unaware that their mission had just merged with hers. Unaware that fate itself had shifted again, because of a single step. Why did betrayal always hide behind silence? The march the next morning was heavier than any they'd endured, not from terrain, not from weight of gear, but from what none of them were saying. Elena walked in front again, the insignia burning in her pocket like a live coal. Every step reminded her of the vow, the brother, the ghosts clawing at her ribs. She wanted to tell them. She wanted to break the silence that had grown like barbed wire between them. But silence kept them alive, and so she carried it. By midday, the squad reached high ground. From there, the valley stretched wide, dotted with broken villages and twisted roads, a route their maps claimed would lead to extraction. But Elena saw something else. A signal, faint, almost invisible, smoke curling from a ruined tower in the distance. The same tower her brother had once described in a letter. Her heart clenched, she slowed. The squad almost ran into her. Ortiz frowned. "Why are we stopping?" She didn't answer at first. Her pulse thundered in her ears. Dawson stepped up, his face pale, sunken from exhaustion. "You see something?" Elena forced her voice steady. "Smoke could be a trap." The others scanned, nodding, trusting her eyes. But they didn't know, couldn't know. Her throat tightened as she whispered, just for herself, "Or it could be him." The squad settled into cover, waiting, watching. Minutes stretched, hours, nothing moved but whined through grass. Dawson finally broke the stillness. "I had a son once," he said quietly, his hands shaking as he pulled at the bandages on his wrists. "He wanted to be like me, thought war was something noble." His voice cracked. "He died before I could tell him the truth." The squad was silent. His words hung heavy, raw. Ortiz whispered after a long pause. "My girl, she used to write me every week. Then it stopped. No explanation, just silence. Sometimes I wonder if she moved on. Sometimes I wonder if she's even alive." The confessions bled out of them like wounds they'd been hiding. One by one, fragments of humanity. Stories of mothers, brothers, regrets, dreams left unfinished. And all the while, Elena stayed silent. Not because she had nothing to say, but because what lived in her chest wasn't confession, it was obsession. A brother's ghost, a vow sharpened into steel. If she spoke it aloud, the mission would change. They'd see her not as a soldier, but as someone compromised. And maybe they'd be right. When dusk settled, the squad moved again. Down the slope toward the valley, shadows stretched long, wrapping around them. Halfway down, the ambush came. Gunfire ripped through the silence. Muzzle flashes tore the dark. The squad dropped, scattering for cover. Dirt sprayed, screams broke the stillness. Elena hit the ground hard, rifle snapping to her shoulder. She fired, breath tight, eyes narrowed. Her shots found targets, one after another. But then through the chaos, she saw him. Not her brother, but another man dragging a prisoner by the collar through the ruins. A figure bound, head covered, stumbling. Her chest froze, the size, the posture, the faint limp on the left side. It couldn't be, could it? She fired, dropping the guard. The prisoner collapsed, motionless. The firefight raged around her. Ortiz screamed for covering fire. Dawson dragged another wounded man to safety. But Alina's world tunneled. She crawled low, bullets snapping overhead until she reached the body. Her hands shook as she ripped the cover from the prisoner's head. A face, bloodied, bruised, but not her brother. Her breath broke, a sound caught between relief and despair. She almost collapsed, almost let the weight crush her right there in the dirt. But there was no time. Another attacker rushed. She lifted her rifle, firing point blank. The man fell. When the last shots faded, the valley lay in silence again. Bodies littered the ground. Smoke curled from broken walls. The squad regrouped, battered, bloodied, but alive. Ortiz's face was pale, eyes wide. "We can't keep doing this," he said, voice shaking. "We can't keep walking blind." Dawson looked at Alina, really looked. "What aren't you telling us?" Her chest tightened. Every instinct screamed to stay silent, to bury it deeper. But the insignia in her pocket felt heavier than ever, and the words pressed against her throat until they burned. Finally she spoke, quiet, measured. "My brother went missing on a mission like this. Same valley, same enemy, same mark." She pulled the insignia from her pocket, unfolding it with trembling fingers. "I think he's still alive." The silence that followed was suffocating. Ortiz stared. "You mean all this time you—" "Yes," she cut him off, her voice steadier now. "Every step I've taken, I've been looking for him." Dawson's jaw clenched, his voice low. "And you led us here into this." Her hands curled into fists. "I let us out of death, more than once. If you think I did it for selfish reasons, fine, but don't forget we're still breathing." Ortiz shook his head, disbelief etched across his face. "So this isn't just a mission to you, it's personal." Alina met his gaze without flinching. "Every mission is personal. Every step we take is someone's son, someone's daughter. The only difference is I admit it." The squad was silent. Somewhere in the valley, distant gunfire echoed. The war didn't pause for confessions. Alina tucked the insignia back into her pocket, her voice low but unyielding. "You can follow me or you can turn back, but I'm not stopping." No one moved, no one spoke. Then slowly Dawson nodded, his voice rough but resolute. "We finish this together." Ortiz hesitated, then looked away, muttering, "Giants fall, shadows step forward, guess we don't have a choice." Alina's chest tightened, not with relief, but with the weight of what their trust now meant. She wasn't just carrying her vow anymore, she was carrying them all. And somewhere ahead, in the valley of ruins and smoke, lay the final truth, whether her brother lived or whether her silence had doomed them all. As they moved out again, her heart whispered the question she couldn't silence. What if saving him meant losing them? What if the final step forward was the one that cost everything? The valley was darker than the sky. Smoke veiled the stars, ruins clawed at the horizon like broken teeth. The squad moved low, silent, shadows in the deeper shadow. Alina led. She could feel their eyes on her back, questions unsaid, doubts unresolved, but still they followed. Each step echoed like a countdown. The insignia in her pocket burned. Every fiber of her being screamed that he was close. Her brother, the ghost she had carried through every firefight, every silence. Dawson limped behind, breath ragged. Ortiz muttered under his breath, cursing at the terrain, the mission, the endless walking. But neither broke away. Neither abandoned her. The tower loomed ahead, the same one she had seen in her brother's last letter, the same one where smoke curled now, faint and taunting. Her heart pounded as they closed the distance, every sense heightened. The smell of burnt rubber, the distant drip of water, the faint shuffle of boots not their own. She raised her fist, halt. The squad froze, weapons tight. Through broken windows, shadows moved. Voices, low and harsh, carried on the wind. Alina's chest constricted. One voice, low, strained, carrying a rhythm she knew better than her own. Her brother. For a moment the war fell away. She saw him as he had been, the boy who taught her how to steady a rifle, who whispered jokes during drills, who told her she was stronger than she believed. She blinked, the vision shattered. Now he was inside that tower, a prisoner or a trap or both. She breathed slow, steadying herself. The squad's eyes bored into her, waiting. "We go in," she said. Ortiz hissed. "That place is crawling, it's suicide." Alina's gaze never wavered. "It's the mission." Ortiz spat in the dirt, muttering curses, but raised his rifle. Dawson just nodded, his eyes hollow but resolute. They moved. The entry was chaos, flashlights slicing through dark, gunfire erupting like thunder, shouts, screams, bodies hitting the floor. Alina moved like water, every step purposeful, every shot precise. She wasn't just fighting, she was searching. And then there. A figure bound, bloodied but alive. Her brother. Their eyes met across the chaos, his widened, disbelief and hope colliding. "Alina," his voice cracked, broken by silence and chains. Her chest shattered. She rushed forward, cutting restraints with trembling hands. His body slumped into hers, heavier than she remembered. "You came," he whispered, voice weak. "I never stopped," she said, holding him steady. But behind her, Ortiz shouted, "We're pinned, we can't hold this." Bullets tore through walls, dust filled the air, the enemy surged like a tide. Alina's brother clutched her arm, his eyes fierce despite his weakness. "Leave me." She froze. "No." "You have to," he rasped. "They'll all die for me, you know it." Her world split, the vow, the mission, the squad. Her hands shook. For years she had carried his ghost, stepped forward in his shadow, and now here he was, flesh and blood, begging her to let go. Dawson's voice cut through the chaos. "Alina, we need to move now." Her brother's grip tightened. "Please, don't trade them for me." Her eyes burned, her lungs ached. The weight of every step, every silence pressed into this moment. She could save him or she could save them, not both. Her rifle shook in her hands, her breath came sharp. And then clarity. Sometimes dignity doesn't speak, it simply acts. She pressed her forehead to his, whispering words no one else could hear. Then she stood, shoving him gently back into shadow. She turned to the squad. "We're leaving now." Ortiz stared at her. "What about?" "Now," she snapped, her voice breaking like a whip. They moved, dragging each other through smoke and gunfire, bursting into the night air. The tower roared behind them, collapsing under fire. Alina didn't look back, couldn't. Her brother's voice echoed in her skull, softer now, fatting. "Don't trade them for me." They ran until their lungs burned, until the valley was nothing but smoke behind them. When they finally collapsed into cover, the squad panted, shaking, alive. Ortiz cursed under his breath, staring at her. "You left him." Her chest ached, her throat tightened, but she met his eyes steady. "I saved you." The words cut deep, but no one argued. Silence fell, heavy, final. When dawn broke, painting the horizon in bruised light, Alina stood apart, her rifle slung low, her face hollow. She had stepped forward into the shadows of giants. She had carried the mission, carried her vow, carried them all. And in the end, her step forward had changed everything. Not with heroics, not with triumph, but with sacrifice. Sometimes the bravest act is walking away. She didn't speak again, didn't need to. Because in the silence, in the weight of her step, the truth lingered, long after the smoke cleared, long after the echoes faded. Sometimes dignity doesn't speak, it simply acts. And in the shadows of giants she had acted.